And welcome to the final episode dedicated to matte lacquer panels. And we'll follow my usual format. So first, a description of the material. This material has a base panel, which everything is applied to. To get a matte lacquer front, use then a primer and lacquer. These are the three main components. There is no official manufacturer-defined application category for this material, because there is no factory that produces it as one complete board the way laminated chipboard is made. For example, laminated chipboard has a manufacturer that produces a finished board and gives it a defined intended use. Here this is more of a custom-made product, everyone makes it their own way. So globally, there is no universal standard application category for it. That is exactly why this video is useful. I'll help you understand where this material should be used and where it shouldn't not. Now let's talk about the production and processing specifics. This is where the quality gap can be absolutely huge. Why? Because to get a front like this, first you need a base panel. That base can be a practical board or MDF. But in the modern market, MDF is basically always used. Why MDF? Because it has a uniform structure. It's wood broken down almost to dust, then bonded back into a single board. Next comes the primer. Primer can come from different manufacturers, different quality levels and different price categories. Then comes the lacquer itself, the paint layer. That can also vary in quality and manufacturer. Now, to make a front like this, you take the base, prepare it for priming, apply primer, sand it, and keep in mind that primer shrinks. The denser the MDF base, the less the primer sinks in. In other words, the base absorbs primer. The lower the density of the board, the more primer it absorbs. And just to be clear, right now we are not even talking about a routed front. We are talking about a flat panel. So after that, it needs to be primed, sanded several times, and the right primer has to be chosen. Then it all needs to be painted. And here there are more questions. What paints is being used? How well is matched chemically with the primer? Because these are different chemical systems. What paint manufacturer is it? What kind of spray booth is being used? Because you can paint in a regular room, or you can paint in a booth with dust filtration, or even in booths with water walls and water floors. Then comes the actual painting process. Before painting starts, the primed surface has to be perfectly sanded, with no sink marks, no grains of dust, no debris. Then comes the paint application itself. At first glance, it seems simple, but if you actually take a spray gun, you quickly realize that depending on humidity and air temperature, you need to adjust the ratio of air to paint mixture, and that directly affects the result. Because if the mix is wrong, the paint can begin drying while it's still being sprayed, and it will land on the surface partially dry. Then there is another factor. How many coats of paint are required to achieve the correct color? Because paint is matched to Fundex. For example, RAL, an international color standard, I think originally German. You have this Fundex and each color has a code used to order paint. There is also NCS, same idea. So here is the important point. If the manufacturer of the painted front is not actually trying to hit the Fundex color accurately, then this can happen. Let's say they claim, we always apply 4 coats. Okay. But if you apply a light shade our right primer, you'll get reasonably close to the target color with 4 coats. But if you choose a stronger, deeper, more saturated color, 4 coats may not be enough to cover the white primer and reach the real target shade. You may need 7 coats, in some cases maybe even 10. So why did I explain all this? So that you understand how many variables there are here, both in choosing the material and in manufacturing it. The quality spread can be night and day. That means what I am about to tell you is based on the test results of my specific front. And to cover this topic more correctly in the future, I'll need to gather a full pool of matte lacquer panels from different manufacturers and price categories, then compare the average results. Or maybe even use the worst result as the baseline, to show what the minimum quality version of this material can realistically deliver. So keep in mind, this test is based on a highly technological, very high quality version of a matte lacquer front. And the conclusions are made accordingly. Now about fasteners. Because proper matte lacquer fronts are made on an MDF base, the most basic fastener, the Arbor screw or confirmat screw, is not suitable. When you drive it in, it simply splits the board. Now, another interesting point. This material has no edge bending the way laminates or laminate chipboard do. The edge is finished through the same painting process. Because of that, production is not tied to a fixed board thickness. You can take MDF in pretty much any thickness, 10 mm, 16 mm, 19 mm, 22 mm. You can even glue MDF layers together and then paint the finished piece at whatever thickness you want. That's actually a big decorative advantage. Because thickness itself becomes part of the design language. By the way, laminated chipboard can also do something similar. You can glue together two 16 mm boards, finish them with one shared edge, and get a thicker panel. That can be useful, for example, for desktops, because the thicker the panel, the less it bends. My own table exactly like that. Two 16 mm boards bonded into one thickness and finished under one edge. Next, routing. Here they are. That is exactly where lacquer becomes powerful, because the MDF base allows to create routed profiles like this. You cannot get this kind of routing from practical board because it has chips of varying density. If you try routing it, the material tears out and leaves uneven areas. You simply won't get a clean result. So yes, routed profiles are absolutely possible here. And that is one of the main strengths of lacquer fronts is general. You can create almost any routing pattern you want. Important note. This front here is an example of very deep routing, and it's an expensive front. The denser the MDF base, the higher the routing quality you can achieve, because the denser core creates less work during manual sanding of all these shaped surfaces. Now about decorative possibilities. Lacquer, by its nature, is mostly about solid colors. All the samples here are solid colors. And these are the fun decks. Yes, there are some metallic imitations, but honestly, in real life, they usually look mediocre. RAL has things like gold effects colors, but in reality they don't end up looking particularly convincing or attractive. So lacquer is really the king of solid color surfaces. Another reason people love it is that you can match it to wall color, for example. With factory laminates, like those used on laminated chipboard panels, the decor range is always limited. Here you have massive color fun decks. And more than that, you can even take a physical sample and custom tint the paint to match that exact color. Yes, there are also special finishes that imitate rust and other effects, but those are experimental and highly exclusive options. We are not talking about those here. They are based on chemical reaction effects. So what can be said about application based on the tests? Briefly, stain resistance. My particular sample performed excellently. Next, scratch and impact resistance. Yes, this material is weaker than the laminated chipboard panels tested in the previous cycle, but overall, the result is still respectable for household use. Moisture resistance. If we take a fully painted panel, coated on all sides, and immerse it in water, nothing happens to it. Out of everything I've tested so far, this would be the most moisture resistant option. Now fire and heat resistance. At 100 degrees it performs with no problem, so boiling water is not an issue. Fire safety also passed. That means the material itself does not become a self-sustaining source of flame. Now let's go through our usage zones. First, safe zones. This includes wardrobes, open shelving, walk-in closets, living room furniture, nightstands, dressers, TV units, and so on. The requirements here are minimal across all parameters. This material is definitely suitable. Now specific zone number 1, children's room. Here the main focus is stains, scratches and impacts. Stain resistance is fine. But in terms of physical durability, scratches and impacts, I would not recommend it for children's rooms. Because the material scratches relatively easily and chips relatively easily. And children's rooms tend to generate a lot of impacts and scratches. Next, bathrooms, washrooms and laundry rooms. Here the main focus is stains and moisture resistance. So for these spaces I would actually recommend this material in a fully painted version. For example, a vanity unit in a bathroom made fully from lacquer panels will be much more moisture resistant than laminated chipboard. And you can also use it for various vertical side panels near showers and tall cabinets. Lacquer works well for that. Next, entryways. Here the main focus is scratches and impacts, so I would not recommend it there. Again, I am saying this as a general recommendation. If you know for sure that you have no small children, you don't bring guests over, you are extremely careful and perfectionistic, and you know you won't be bringing heavy things through that area, then it's your choice. I'm not forbidding it. I'm not giving you a recommendation, so you think about it consciously. Next comes a separate category, functional surfaces. These are tops of dressers, cabinets, consoles, any non-kitchen countertops, decks, and work areas. Again, the main focus here is scratches, impacts and stains. And in terms of scratches and impacts, I would not recommend this material for these zones. Because if you make a dresser top in an entryway and throw a bunch of keys on it, you will scratch the surface. If you place a mug with an unglazed ceramic bottom on it, let me show you. Like this mug. This exposed ceramic ring underneath, one placement is now to rub the surface. That's it, I've already damaged it. So it is not suitable. Any surface when you plan to place weight and actively use objects, desks, worktops, skissers, mugs, metal items and so on, this material is not suitable there. That's already covered. Now kitchens. Again, important distinction. Kitchen carcasses and fronts are one thing, countertops are another. So first let's talk about carcasses and fronts. Here all properties matter together because kitchens create the harshest operating conditions. From the stain perspective, fine, it passes. In terms of scratches and impacts, matte lacquer on MDF is weaker than laminated chipboard or decorative front laminates. But on average, based on real life use, it can still work in kitchens. However, and this is important, if you have small children, then again it depends heavily on your use conditions. Most likely they will damage those fronts. In the kitchen is used carefully, clean it regularly, and there is no constant risk of chaotic impacts, then yes, it can be used. As for steam, that's fine, lacquer is resistant. And for fire and heat also fine. And in my specific case, with Italian primers and paints, the coating is fire safe. The tricky part is that this material usually chosen specifically because routing is possible and it gives a decorative design advantage. Now if we talk about kitchen countertops and wall panels, it's absolutely not suitable. Because on a kitchen countertop, the key property is physical durability, scratch resistance and impact resistance. And here this material absolutely does not quality. After that, there is really nothing more to discuss. Now in the final overall video, after all testing cycles, we can build and full combined result. We already have a stain rating, a strange rating and a fire and water rating. All of that is combined into one overall rating, and we can see the total difference between materials. There is also a second part of the table where material use is recorded by zone with recommendations and comments. That means it records not only whether the material is recommended, but also in what form and under what limitations. So I'll keep building this table, and over time it will become a clear comparison system across materials. Now one more topic, special requests. Using these panels as interior finishing like window sills, window revels or outdoor furniture, here the situation is tricky. If you use a fully painted panel and don't cut or damage it during installation, then moisture resistance is not a problem. But if the panel is left unsealed and has a raw exposed cut, then absolutely not, because the MDF core will swell once it gets moisture. As for something like outdoor terrace use, as long as the front remains fully intact and fully sealed inside the lacquer coating, it will remain moisture resistant. But only as long as it stays intact. And in that case, we are only talking about a single front panel itself. So if you wanted, for example, to make a full outdoor kitchen on a terrace, then to make it truly durable, you would also need to make the carcasses from the same type of material, and that becomes very expensive. Or you would need to protect the construction by design. So those are some extra truths for you to consider. And thank you for watching. I'll be waiting for you in the next episodes.